Sir, the topic that I was supposed to talk about yesterday, we'll continue with that. And then I will introduce you to that. We're not going to give a major dictation on this. I'm giving you the synopsis of it, and you would have one write-up from M.N. Srinivas. I tried to add a few things yesterday, if at all you had. One was about erectus and pictures were asked, so I was trying to give some pictures. So what happened yesterday? You went home and thought about what we were speaking in the class, because there was nothing to study from your notebook. No? What if half of our classes are like that? I'm afraid if anybody would be there in the class. This is one topic related to social change. Every time there has been an effort, as we were saying yesterday, every time there has been an effort in the human groups to move up the ladder, you are never happy being at a position that is really low in the society. And Srinivas, with his focus on caste, that is the article, essay on the future mobility of caste. So 2 write-ups I will be providing, which is actually a synopsis of this particular essay. So far, topics such as Sanskritization, Westernization, and even some idea about modernization, tribe and caste continuum, all these seem to be, in a way, references to mobility of the caste. But in this particular essay, Srinivas is trying to organize. Is there a rumbling noise? थोड़ा सा उधर कुछ करो, कुछ आधे ऐसे करो. I generally don't touch if something happens. I don't want to take a risk. ఇది ఉంటుంది ఫార్మాలిటీగా. మీ ఆఫీస్లో కాలింగ్ బెల్ అనేది అది మోగుతూ ఉంటుంది. ఓ సారీ, I thought somebody has come to assist us. See, for Srinivas, this is a classification based on time. This is something unusual for him. Mostly he talks about why caste mobility and how it happens. Nevertheless, even if he is trying to arrange the instruments of caste mobility on a temporal scale, he did not miss his focus, meaning he is still at how the things are happening, what is going on, what are the major aspects that are facilitating mobility of groups up or down. As I was saying elsewhere also, whenever a concept of this kind is given, you should start by defining it. For example, I ask you to define caste mobility. How do you do that? Meaning of it, what do you understand about it? Your script you will get tomorrow. I'll give you scripts tomorrow. How do you understand, how do you present caste mobility? Whatever you understand.
The ability of caste groups to move upward on the social
the movement, the ability of a caste group to move up or down in the caste hierarchy may be a fair enough definition there. Can it be a horizontal mobility also, just in case? Horizontal mobility, is it within the caste? Two different castes at the same level. Okay. What he says is it is neither Sanskritization or anything else. It is a mere shift in occupation between the caste groups that are having almost the similar social state. Anything else when I say horizontal mobility? Anything else that comes to your mind? Push the door. Within the? I repeat once again, sir. See, I totally agree with what she has said about general definition of caste mobility. Most of the time you will be sticking to that. Certain castes are trying to move up, and as a result some are moving down. The result of a few moving up would mean that a few others are moving down. Is there a possibility of a horizontal mobility of a culture group, thereby your status is getting changed?
Like you were saying yesterday, even if you change the religion, the caste will stick with you.
And the later half you did not concentrate on. I said horizontal mobility, because of which there is a change in the status. Sir? Caste following a subcaste. Castes forming subcastes. I was not looking for it. Anything else? From
from different groups.
Such as?
Say, for example, now people are going for real estate. So, different caste groups are forming a group. I mean, like
Something like a guild, a new kind of a guild. Slightly modify the source group so that you can reach me.
In agricultural sector, different castes are getting united to get the political power. Some castes which are in BC orders are unifying with open communities which are in same occupation to take on the head. It is happening.
I repeat my question. Horizontal mobility resulting in change of the social status. I totally agree that new castes, emergence of new castes is what I am actually hinting at, partially what I am hinting at. New castes are emerging. These two people, they spoke about already existing castes trying to find a common occupation. So they may be from different other caste groups, but then you have found one commonality, a common interest, maybe whether somebody says agriculture, somebody says something else. Because of this new guild that is being established, guild may start working like a caste. This we understand, but there is something else. New cults. But is it finally resulting in the change of the social status? So back home you work on this, you try writing down your random thoughts. What I am looking for it is how a new caste can be formed, the mechanisms of formation of a new caste, or the existing social group trying to move horizontally with the result of in bettering the social status. This requires a bit of thinking. I repeat, sir, the first one is how the various processes through which castes might emerge. Genesis of the caste, new castes. I'm not talking about a caste system being established. No, it's not like that. I am asking about the processes, the mechanisms through which any new caste can be formed. Secondly, some XYZ group, through horizontal mobility, it is becoming a caste, the caste that may be existing, so it is becoming a part of the existing caste, or horizontal mobility giving rise to a new caste altogether, so that their social status is actually improving. इसके बारे में सोचिए. I mean, whatever random thoughts that you can come to.
Occupational shift from maybe there are two castes which are treated differently but at the same level. They shift in occupation but they don't either get acclimatized into or they don't get into the caste which they're trying to move with, nor they're in whatever they were. So they form a new caste as such, but they're treated equally but they're not.
Okay, you can actually report all these thoughts. Once you come up with these different random thoughts, you can simply mail your thoughts to me so that I understand where you are moving towards. So within 1 or 2 classes, I'll try to have most of your views, and let's see, we'll come to a conclusion on birth of the new castes and how the horizontal mobility is actually an instrument of social status change. That is something to think about. Let's come back here. So I was saying that Srinivas is categorizing, is listing how caste mobility is happening across the time periods. So he is basically dividing that into 3 phases: the pre-British, British and post-British. Caste was a pre-British phenomena, so understandably mobility also must have started. Hanji sir. No, you report all those thoughts in a proper list. 1 or 2 things, even if you are getting, you just, so that once your ideas are there. Today I don't want to spend a lot of time on gathering your ideas here. I'm already late, so I thought I would gather your ideas elsewhere and come back with a discussion in the class. Yesterday somebody was talking about this. Can a political rule of a particular religion, be instrumental in prosperity or the otherwise, the opposite of it, of their own community? Can the political rule of a particular religion be instrumental in deciding the prosperity or opposite of their own people? First part, you feel, okay, it should be definitely, because our own people, so how can we be partial against our own people? So we should be, in a way, benefiting our own people. That's the general idea. But I am presenting to you in the later half. Your own people are ruling, but your prospects have diminished.
It happens at national level, like you have already told, at local level, the family flourishes. Family rules. State level, it's the caste. And at the national level, it will be religion. So that way, in a religion also, the caste numbers. So whatever is at the center, in that religion also they will see numerical data will be there, and according to that power is distributed.
So, I mean, you are actually answering to the first part of it. When I am saying that a particular religion is there, it is helping their own people in prosperity. This argument sounds good there. So at a national level, my religion is ruling, So it's naturally that they would try to benefit my own religion people. But is it also a phenomena that my own religion is in the power, but my own people are losing?
Keeping in view the future elections when the migrations of Nepalis and all occur and borders.
I'm not simply speaking about small, even small populations there. Our discussion, I'll tell you in plain words, the discussion was basically about whether the Muslim rule helped the larger Muslim community in improving their prospects.
Basically, the political rule of the religion does not necessarily guarantee the development of that people of that religion, because they practice establishment politics. The data from the Sajja Committee and all those things, reports have necessarily proved that the conditions of minority have not improved, despite their governments in the UK and other states. So basically, it speaks about the empowerment, not appeasement, that develops the community.
So if at all you take this one, appeasement versus empowerment, were any mechanisms of empowerment happening of their own people in the pre-British times? So basically we were trying to look at the statistics of various religious groups, the poverty levels of various religious groups and the existence of middle class, etc. It is seen that in the Muslim community largely we have not much of a middle class existing there. The statistics I'll try to provide to you in some other class. Whereas when you look at certain other religions, we see the larger presence of the middle class, and the gap between the very super rich and the super poor, it is very huge when it comes to the Islamic populations. I am giving you these hints so that by the time when I come back with the questions of Islam impact on Indian society or Christianity impact on Indian society, etc., you are already having some kind of an idea, some kind of a thought goes into it. Whether, Hanji sir.
ముస్లిం రూల్ అనేది నిజాం కింగ్డమ్స్ ఉన్న పీరియడ్లో కరెక్ట్ వాళ్ళకి ప్రాస్పర్ అయ్యారు. బట్ ఈ టైంలో నేను క్యాస్ట్ తీసుకొని చెప్తున్నాను. క్యాస్ట్ వాళ్ళు రూల్ చేసినంత మాత్రాన వాళ్ళందరూ ప్రాస్పర్ అవ్వాలండి. ఇంకోటి ఇప్పుడు ఈ 2005, 2010 తర్వాత వస్తున్నది ఏంటంటే ఎవరైనా మన క్యాస్ట్ వాళ్ళని మనం ఒక పొజిషన్లో హెల్ప్ చేయాలని ఐఏఎస్ ఆఫీసర్ని కానీ పెట్టినా కానీ ఏమైనా కామెంట్స్ వస్తాయేమో వీడు.
My question is not about the current times. My question in that context was especially about the Islamic rule and whether the Islamic rule was instrumental in improving the larger economic base of the pop. I don't say that each and everybody would be benefited, it is not that way. But then, so in a way it is the very general studies question maybe I am looking at. Whether the Islamic rule had benefited the Islamic populations of Indian subcontinent.
Policies which are unfavorable for one particular group may be detrimental to the other.
Okay.
So, like in pre-British time, during independence, when people are there trying to implement the policies which are in favor of Muslims, and also the enmity seeds between Hindus and Muslims.
Stopping or comma? Okay.
During the Nizam rule in Hyderabad, I am taking the case of Hyderabad state. Most of the positions are here. The basic language is Urdu in every education institution or administration. So most of the Muslims came from that UP, Kanpur, from those areas, and they got professors and all the administrative posts and the army posts also. So we can say they favored, but they degraded the Hindu community of this Hyderabad. Because of that only there is a lot of agitations have happened. But later, after the establishment of the democracy, it has changed. Minority numbers are major.
Actually, Nizam is a different story which I would want to talk in a different class altogether on regionalism related to communalism. Whether the Hindu degradation was happening or the degradation of Muslim itself, or maybe it is something like my own lineage becoming prosperous when compared to. So because this is one topic that raises a lot of egotism. no wonder there would begin a rivalry in the class also.
And to understand this, like Islamic rule, whether Muslims benefited or not, you have to look at the two broad categories of ashrafs and ashrafs.
Huh.
Ashrafs benefited a lot, and those who were left out were the ajlafs. Basically, ajlafs are what you are calling as the super poor, and ashrafs is the little consumption. Ajlafs mainly were, it's like a process during the entire Islamic rule, there were conversions happening, forcible or otherwise. Basically, these new converts were the ones who were moving into the ajlaf community, and these were neglected and not looked after, and they remained the poor. Whereas ashraf community, which was closer to the nobility, benefited and
So it is like the pro-noble kind of development wave. The very terms that he was using were used by M.N. Srinivas in his study of Lucknow, where he was categorizing people as the high caste Muslims and low caste Muslims, ashrafs and ajlafs. Within ashrafs also he was looking at the various categories therein, like Pathans, Mughals, etc. Who were the large beneficiaries, and I also totally agree with him where you are actually getting to converted. It is not really possible for somebody to become a Sayyid or Mughal, because you will have to establish the lineages there. If at all you are a royal community, you already have a power, like we have seen in Suryavamshis and Chandravamshis. Maybe it was possible for people to get the lineage thing done, but especially in this particular case that did not happen. And whatever the converts that were happening, as our friend is saying, they were getting accommodated only in the lower ranks of the society. It's basically, moving from a Hindu lower caste to the Muslim lower caste. And your problem here is much more aggravated, because you have left Hinduism and came here. Hindus have turned your enemies, and the people up in your own religion are also not accepting you. You are considered to be somebody as a alien fellow coming in, maybe in order to take a benefit. You wanted to say something?
Important reason is whether it is Islamic rulers or Hindu rulers, most of them hardly made any efforts towards improvement of social or economic improvement of people. They may have tried to propagate their own religion. So most of the rulers, whether it Hindus or Islamic. So during the Islamic rule, the size of the Muslim population may have increased, but not their social or economic quotient.
The first part I actually was wanting to get from you, that is, British are considered to be the fellows who must have brought the awareness of the welfare state. The possibility of a political rule changing the fate of the people in a positive way, especially in the economic way, that kind of an awareness was got by these. Who propagated, etc., that we will be Hanji sir.
And one more thing, if we are talking about communal politics is basically a middle class phenomenon. It rose with the industry. Pre-industry or pre-British idea, first thing, the state was not a welfare state.
I don't truly agree with that. We will talk about it. Whether communal politics is a middle class thing. Who is actually at the edge of this ward? Who is at the end of the barrel? That we will have to see. We will have a talk about it at a later point of time. Who is instrumental and who is the target, kind of a thing. So communalism I'm not really talking about. The word that I wanted to get from this discussion is the word called welfare state, and awareness of the political masters, the possibility of the political masters to change the economic and social situation of the groups under question. See, it is something like this.
In this case, we can give an example of Akbar also. Though he is a Muslim, he started a new religion encompassing all the good qualities and different religious scholars. Dina Ilahe. So he also.
That's all a political game.
Yeah. So like, though it is political, he was uplifting in a way the social step. Like.
Was it really functional? That was a big question. In order to praise Akbar, in order to beat our own trumpets, we may say so. I mean, history is once again a biased one. My history about Akbar says something else. So, in most of the history books, opinions do matter. See, if at all you are writing a typical UPSC General Studies answer, you will definitely have to praise, you'll praise But then I actually don't have the quotes to talk about this. Maybe in one of our classes we'll come with the quotes also about the remarks regarding, I love this ruler for his magnificence, for the kind of pompous living, for the kind of luxuries that made very public, that he made very public to the people. But above all that, there are other things, whether the religion that he was forming was really an apolitical one, or whether really it was a theological one or a philosophical one, that we will have to look at. We'll come back on that. There are a few things here. I'm right now sticking to Srinivas' idea here. For him, caste had been changing its identity from time to time, with one of the very principal characteristics that it is retaining, that was the idea of purity and pollution. I was one of the very ardent supporters of dysfunctionalism. So initially when I was telling this to the students that you will have to write about dysfunctions in your answers, not simply the students but several professors also were skeptical. But then from 2015 onwards, the literature about dysfunctions had increased so much on various topics in anthropology. We will also look at from that perspective religion also, dysfunctions and functions. Somehow religion has been a favorite question of UPSC. You know that the topic of religion is rather dysfunction, discomforting, and it's something like a bomb. It explodes. When it explodes, it's like a nuclear bomb. When it explodes, it takes away communities. And that is the reason why I observe a lot of caution. Above anything else, what I love to talk about is comparative religions, which was a subject matter in the medieval times and early independent times in India. But of late, people are rather not interested in religion, forget about comparative religions. So I am actually looking for questions from comparative theology in UPSC, and sometimes the kind of questions they ask, you can't even touch them. Questions on magic, questions on witchcraft and religion. They ask so very interpretation-based, very in-depth analysis-based questions. That is the reason why I would want to go a step further, because such kind of questions, if you are hitting them, they should give you marks. It's not that you are attempting and you are getting a low score. That should not happen. The choice of your question should not explode, should not exhibit your innocence, your idiocy. When you are attempting a question, that should show that you have an awareness of it. That is the reason why I wanted to spend a little more time on topics such as religion, especially from anthropological perspective. I am not using any other perspective. For anthropology, what religion is. No, I'll continue with this. I was saying that for Srinivas, caste has come to stay for a long time. It has been changing its chemistry, its hierarchy from time to time. But what was standstill was the concept of purity and pollution. Initially, maybe it was an occupational based one. Later, somehow, it was becoming a psychological division in the society. So these are something like a preconceived notions of superiority and inferiority. Of course, he was also trying to tell what makes a caste a superior one. But somehow, at some point of time in history, if a caste was untouchable caste, the shadow of untouchability remains till eternity. unless otherwise something magical happens and the orientation of the society towards the so-called untouchable caste sees a massive change. Otherwise, the shadows of untouchability will continue to exist. Now, here what happens is, there's an interesting thing he speaks about. In the topics such as Sanskritization, we found that the lower castes were having a possibility of progressing upward. One of the very attractive models of Sanskritization was Kshatriyization. In Kshatriyization, it was possible that even without the formal Sanskritization mechanisms, merely by having political power, change in occupation, there was possibility of a group getting a recognition as a Kshatriya. That was possible. For Srinivas, in the pre-British times, political power and warfare were popular mechanisms of changing the status of a caste group. I am using the words cautiously as he was using in his write-up. For pre-British caste mobility, there are several other models were there, but the very comfortable model was Kshatriyization and warfare. So you indulge in a war, you catch hold of certain lands, you announce yourself as a ruler, eventually you would sit along with the other rulers and hence you become Kshatriya. Because now you are sitting with several other political leaders and kings, you would also be recognized as a king and you would eventually become a Kshatriya. That is something that was changed with the British arrival. One major element of prospect in the mobility of the caste, that is getting land grants or becoming a political leader or warfare, becoming a king and trying to change the fate of your community, that was stopped by the British. We have seen in the new hierarchy in Sanskritization, if you could recall, one of the communities that was brought down, that was pushed down by the British arrival was Kshatriyas. And then of course Brahmins were also moving down. They were more in favor towards the Vaishyas. So we will have a small look at the things that he was trying to present to us. These are the three very popular ways of mobility of the caste. First one I was speaking of, that is become a political ruler, political power, you become a party to the warfare, maybe you would become a soldier, then there is a natural possibility of one becoming a Kshatriya. It was not simply that. He was giving good lot of examples where you serve a ruler for a considerable period of time and you win positions there. You win positions, you win recognition by the political leader, and then you are also given a political responsibility. You will grow in the cadre of the caste. So by serving rulers, winning their confidence, getting positions of the Kshatriyas, having access to land grants, you are becoming a Kshatriya. There was one name I had used some time back in your class called Steen. He was studying the agrarian systems of India. There is one other topic we will be discussing sometime in the next couple of weeks, agrarian social structure, how it has changed. Once again, a very typical economic history topic. Who are all involved in the agrarian social structure, how things have changed so the examination will happen from the Gupta era till now. This is the reason why sometimes, looking at the questions of paper 2, people say that, okay, these are very general questions. You shouldn't understand it that way. If at all a question is asked in a particular optional paper, you'll have to understand that there is something from the optional that is done there. You will not be able to, you should not be repeating the same thing that you are doing there. At least the names of the thinkers should change. to give a feel that I am writing an anthropology answer. Steen was talking about the open agrarian system, meaning that agricultural activities were open for all the caste groups. Though caste was an occupational specialization, caste was based on occupational specialization in a largely agrarian society having a hold on agricultural land. You may not be plowing physically. You may not be physically plowing the field, but then you have so much of a land and you are hiring people to take up agricultural activities. So principally you are a landlord, you have those agricultural things with you. And agriculture, because it was a main economic state, that would give you an edge. If at all you are a ruler, at the same time you have so much of agrarian activity going on within your lineage, within your family, household, etc., that would be something like a cushion for you. Political power might be there, you may lose it, but if at all you have the agricultural land and a performing agricultural community, that would continue with your economic activities. Just have a look at that. Read those three things. The last three especially. Those were various thinkers who were writing about this, how political power can change the social status. We started talking about it in the Brahmanical theory of origin of caste itself. This is very interesting. The pre-British times were more flexible for the people to move up and down. Pre-British times were actually flexible for people to move up and down. When the British came, they were helping a few, crushing a few down. When they were doing the later, they were actually curtailing the existing models of emulation. So people wouldn't want to be using a Kshatriya model. They wouldn't want to be using a Brahmanical model. What may be available could be a Vaishya model. If not anything else, maybe a Sudra model. So suddenly you feel that the Varnas that were there down below were becoming more prosperous, more powerful. These are the interesting remarks Kolenda and Srinivas make. Pre-British times, Varna model was so very fluid. There was so much of flexibility for people to move up and down. That changed forever once the British had come. Can I talk? Elsewhere he writes this way. Because we are talking about a pre-modern technology time, even if people were having larger territories, kings were having larger territories, ruling them effectively was not possible. It was as simple as understanding how warfare is, how warfare was maybe 2-3 decades ago and now. You are actually not going on to the field. Just imagine the war of the Esther years, Esther centuries. So you would fix a place, one big ground. So you are standing on that side, I am standing on this side, and there will be a talk, one big talk between you and me, what you have done and how I'll dismantle you and how I'll destroy you, kind of. And then finally you'll say, okay, fine, let us fight now, the talk is over. Then you'll start the kind of, if at all any, I have mentioned this series of documentaries in one of my classes, Barbarians Rising. I have spoken of this. Time milta to dekhna, I mean, you would really enjoy how the Rome took more than 700 years to fall. Barbarians Rising. You must have heard this saying that Rome was not built in a day, but Rome was also not destroyed in a day. If at all any power is there, any true power was there, to bring the true power down also is not possible in a day's time. Actually, this series tells you, it will help you at several places, how tribes were getting together and how different. So it is actually the European politics. You would understand how Rome's power was expanding and contracting, and it was so very beautiful narration. A smaller barbarian fellow will invent a technique of countering the power of Rome. Later, the Romans learn this technique and apply it elsewhere. So it is not like that kind of a feeling of ego is not there. Because this is a technique given by a small fellow, I should not be using, this kind of a thing is not there. You would see that they actually accumulate all that knowledge of warfare. Now, let me come back here. This you can see in the Roman Empire also. When the kingdoms become unwieldy, you will have to give away the responsibility to somebody. If from your own lineage, from your own community, if people are there, you may be giving them the responsibilities of holding certain provinces. If your own people are not there, maybe you would be giving this responsibility to some trusted employee of yours. But the margins, the boundaries there become so very porous that it was very easy for certain provinces to announce, to declare independence, or to declare a war against the bigger group there. This had to change. This was to change permanently when somebody like a British power started ruling. Just imagine wherever the sun was rising on that particular day, at whatever point of time, you would see that there was a power of British existing. This could not have been possible without the kind of technology they were having. When I am saying technology, it is not simply like a communication technology or the transport one, or the kind of methodology they were using to stock the data. Even with the high-end computer gadgets, etc., to what extent our welfare programs are meeting the targets and giving us a buzz at required point of time. A couple of years ago, a letter was sent from the British to the government of India and Sri Lanka and several other countries. They were actually listing the projects, the dams that have completed their age. They had built it for about some for 99 years or 120 years, etc. So they were sending letters to the governments from across the world, to across the world, saying that, see, this particular dam had completed its age, you will have to dismantle it and reconstruct it. We are speaking of somebody who had constructed more than 100 years ago. It is not necessary for them now. It's not their business now to keep track of all that and remind to the other countries. Maybe some of them must have turned hostile to the British power, but still such kind of data is maintained and they are trying to update you on that. See, you are in danger, you try to do this kind of. When we are saying that, this is also the reason why I was telling you in that class, try to respond on this. What if British did not rule us? Was it a possibility that maybe we could have gone into much more medieval times? Or maybe we would have been waiting for another century for somebody to come and give us the technological know-how? I truly understand that at one point of time, we were at the helm of affairs. Nehru writes in his book, Discovery of India, he gets surprised that what made us the medieval stock? Suddenly something seems to have gone wrong. From a highly prosperous community, from somebody who was inventing things and giving to the rest of the world, We seem to be existing at the medieval. Medieval is everything that is negative. And maybe we were waiting for somebody to come and give us the modern things. See, I'm not praising the British. But then we will have to understand the things they must have given. Maybe they have hastened the process. See, the moment we started reading modern India as children, one of the first things that must have been spoken by our teachers was that these fellows looted us. The poverty of contemporary times is the result of the looting that had happened at that point of time. So it's like, trying to cry about something that had happened several decades or a century ago. See, you cannot change your past. You cannot change your past. But maybe we can have another look. For example, our own people might, who had crossed the borders, who started living elsewhere in the world. Don't you think they are also disturbed? Don't you think the people who are actually finding us as competitors, they are also disturbed by us? Just imagine you try going to, say, countries like Zambia or countries like Kenya, where we are the fairer skin, and we are the economic power. We have estates there, and we are subjugating the natives to all kinds of atrocities that we had been criticizing here. So if at all you are pointing at somebody like a British being a colonial fellow, looting us, extracting all the benefits from us, etc., what is the fate of these people when the same thing is being done by us? You may say that the scale is less, but at least we also have those tinges. That's where Srinivas says, when you are trying to move up the ladder, you try to be everything what the topmost fellow is, including the cruelty that he must have been having. You would want to replicate everything the topmost fellow was having. Maybe we were trying to look at the European model and imitate the European model wherever we were going in Africa or elsewhere. Now coming back here, the modern technologies that were introduced by them, maybe they got the unification. Just have a look at this. It's not simply that. Of course, certain older avenues were dismantled, they disappeared, they were given a low key, but several new ones had started. I love this one, number 6, census operations. That was one of the very instrumental things to change your social status. So it's like when a census is conducted, you would report that you belong to certain other caste group, maybe an upper caste group, maybe a lower caste group, based on what is required for you at that time. In most of the cases, it was found that the low caste were claiming an upper caste status. Census was an instrument there. People might say, what happens only by making things written there? You know this. So over a period of time, census after census after census, you are actually mentioning that you belong to a particular upper caste. And the upper caste should not shy away from claiming a lower caste status. That's very important. I remember a narration by my father's elder brother, who was working as a BDO at that time, when he had taken this little fellow, my father, for an admission into a PUC thing. So the school headmaster was telling that why don't you claim a lower caste status within Islam itself so that you will be benefited. And my father's elder brother, he was into all redness. Then it was like, how can you say that we take a lower caste status and things like that. So it shows that there is a lack of futuristic understanding. Maybe he failed to understand that future is the time of the lower caste. What would you do with the tag of the upper caste? So later we have seen several things changing, reservations for the OBCs, reservations for the lower caste, and benefits for the lower caste and the minorities, etc. So one thing you should understand is, if you want to move up the ladder, leave away, shying away from claims. Don't really bother if you have to claim a lower caste status or lower social status. As Srinivas in one of his last writings was saying, that India has become, so he is talking about the post-Indian times, India has become a territory where the lower status is actually taken respectfully. People take pride in claiming a lower status. This is something very unique in our case. So there are a few things there. This is what our friends were talking about, emergence of new trades. He was also reflecting parallelly about the givens of the British rule. Everything revolves around the awareness they have created. One, of course, the technology. Second one was the awareness. We understand that right and wrong vary from culture group to culture group, but they were trying to bring some kind of a universal understanding of right and wrong. So you can actually see wherever these people have ruled, the kind of constitutions that have come, they seem to be having those comparisons, similarities. Wherever such kind of stratified societies were existing, when these people were trying to come with the new kind of an understanding, we see that the constitutions are similar in several ways. It is here Srinivas talks about the religious conversions and how the religious conversions and the role of European missionaries were instrumental in spreading the so-called literacy. If not anything else, literacy was something that was given by these people. And of course, in the post-independent times, huge lot of things are there. One could be democracy that makes you an individual important. Every individual important. Every individual is important. The importance can be understood by what is the money that somebody is paying for your vote. As a parent of one of the students was saying the other day, sometimes a single vote costs more than tens of thousands. We will have to be ready for it. As one of the respected chief ministers was saying in an open talk the other day, that see, I might be spending so much to buy each of the votes there. Place, name, delete it. Not that I am afraid of something, I don't want unnecessary controversies between you and me. If at all you are a die-hard fan of that person, I don't want the controversy. There shall not be anything that disturbs love between you and me. He talks about democratization of the village, democratization of Hindu caste. So maybe the political democracy had introduced the ritual democracy also. When numbers become important, low caste also become important. That's where he talks about how reservations have actually changed the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So initially, two landlords, see generally in a village, the fight is between two landlords, landlord communities. Reddy garu, Nayudu garu, kind of. Suppose that constituency is declared a reserved constituency, he would field his own Paleru and he would feed his own Paleru. Trusted assistant there. So basically, the two landlords are fighting, but on their behalf they are fielding their own people. So it may so happen that initially, even after election, initially, the landlord that had won would be deciding the things. And initially, because the low caste person who got elected, he was not having that kind of an awareness of the political system. And whatever goes on in the government, he may be every time depending on this landlord, and he is pushing the landlord to the front. But the moment he understands that it is his stamp, it is his signature, that really matters. I really love that scene. MLA Dharmaraj Mohan Babu సినిమాలో Mohan Babu is the assistant to the big fellow. And some political drama happens and Mohan Babu was fielded in the post. He gets elected. So on that dais, the way his posture changes, previously he was standing behind this fellow and now he is sitting. Initially an obedient posture, slowly the posture changes, and then this speaks volumes. It would take time. True democratization, true understanding of the political power takes time. The same thing you can extend it to the places where women are fielded in the election. Because reserved constituency for the female is there. I mean, so if you are supposed to, so wives of the political leaders or sisters of the political leaders, they are actually taking the positions there. Initially she may be depending on you, but later you will anyway depend on her, kind of a thing. So real bureaucratization, these were all written by Zilliot when he was talking about how a Mahar community was progressing, kind of a thing. So democracy, welfare state, when numbers are becoming important, ritual significance takes a back seat, and whatever secular elements are there, they would try to decide which caste may start to have a real authority. So he was trying to tell what is happening across different time periods, how a ritual mechanism was substituting a secular mechanism in deciding the caste status. That was a brief idea that I wanted to give you. Let us move on to the other one. That is your syllabus. Anthropological approaches, forms of religion, religion, magic and science, functionaries of religion, sacred and profane, rituals and myths. I would love to see the topics, the last two, sacred and profane, rituals and myth, in the exam. Many people stop studying about religion after functionaries. Generally, when you are reading a new book also, new book is like a new wife. You are very much enthusiastic in the beginning. First few chapters, you do it so very meticulously. By the time you come to the later ones, you are already dead. That is the reason why in some of the books I start reading from the back. last chapter and then kind of. The same thing I was speaking of in anthropological thought also. When you're doing so much on evolution and you're not doing anything in the postmodernism kind of things, questions have to come from the later part only. This is the basic syllabus. I wanted to show you a small 1 minute, 2 minute talk, then I'll take you forth.
When I meet somebody who claims to be religious, my first impulse is don't believe you. I don't believe you until you tell me, do you really believe, for example, if they say they're Catholic, do you really believe that when a priest blesses a wafer, it turns into the body of Christ? Are you seriously telling me you believe that? Are you seriously saying that wine turns into blood? Mock them, ridicule them. In public, don't fall for the convention that we're all too polite to talk about religion. Religion is not off the table. Religion is not off limits. Religion makes specific claims about the universe which need to be substantiated and need to be challenged and, if necessary, need to be ridiculed with contempt.
Just in March, Richard Dawkins and others were on the Mall in Washington, D.C. for their Rally for Reason, an atheist march. 10,000 showed up. And Dawkins told the crowd they should ridicule religious people. Let me quote him. He says, mock them, ridicule them in public. Their beliefs are insane, therefore they should be ridiculed with contempt. It appears he's reading from an old script that goes all the way back to Hosea, isn't he?
You know, when I heard that and read this, I read it hours before my talk at the University of Hawaii. And interestingly, that the University of Hawaii has one of the leading departments globally on world religions. Some of the finest minds years gone by used to use some of their writings and so on. I began my talk by saying I support what Dawkins says, that we should ridicule people with religious belief. And I would recommend that he begin that statement in Saudi Arabia and let him start. And the audience just roared, you know, so there was maybe nasty comment to make. He is really complimenting this society of Christians by saying things like that because he can say it with impunity. I dare him to go to Saudi and do that. I dare him to go to Iran and do that. The least he will find out is that not all religions are created equal.
Richard Dawkins mocks religions. The discussion there was whether God exists or not. The discussion there was whether God exists or not. But the last statement is very interesting. When he says that, Dawkins can understand that all religions are not one and the same. In fact, you know, the kind of remark that he was making, the kind of remark this man was making, Ravi Zacharias, he was making about Christianity, Christian community, Christian society, where Dawkins was in a position to say things. Because when you are talking to some tolerant population, you can say anything. So it's like taking them for granted, riding over them. The same thing can be extended to Indian society also. Several people can understand this. Those who must have traveled across the world, they will be in a better position to appreciate India for what it is. There is so much of flexibility, there is so much of freedom for following their own faiths. And whatever we speak of, some kind of untoward incidents, violent kind of violent kind of incidents that must have emerged, they are basically the rare kind of incidents. That's not a routine actually. It's not that you are very much afraid, you are very much afraid every Friday when you want to go and offer your prayers. It's not that way. You have the kind of flexibility, freedom to do things, which is a very uniqueness of this subcontinent. It is not present everywhere. So we don't understand the value of being in India unless otherwise we face problems, we understand problems elsewhere. So the discussion here between Dawkins and Zacharias is whether God exists or not, but our question here is not that. But the statement I really loved. And I also wanted to show to you what is happening elsewhere in the world. People are meeting in congregations and abusing the God and believers of God. So these are the people who are actually now at a stage of what we call materialism. They have crossed materialism also. They are actually at a stage called existentialism. That is the faith they are into. Existentialism is that belief which makes it right for whatever you do to exist. You understood? In fact, there are beautiful debates such as science and religion. Can we say this, that science stands for morality? How trustworthy the scientists are. When generally we link science with rationality, science with modernism. This is a general way of looking at things. But can we say this, can we conclude this, that science is a moral discipline?
Because many scientists have done inhuman things for their researchers and all. So science and morality are two completely different
things.
Morality
Morality
is a perspective.
is?
It's a perspective, but science is a truthful discipline, but not a moral discipline. It sticks.
When you are using this word, science is a truthful what? Discipline. What exactly is truth? That also has to be settled first.
Not truthful, ma'am. You can say objective.
Maybe objective. Science may be an objective one. Now, I'll ask one question and take you to the content. Is it necessary for science to be subjective? Is it necessary for science to be subjective? If so, give an example.
Yes, sir.
Somebody from there. हम बाद में भी बात कर सकते हैं, हम बाजू में ही हैं. We are neighbors. We always talk to each other across the. Somebody from the back. My question was what?
Should science be subjective?
Should science be subjective? If so, give an example. बताइए सर. You give very good answers, though occasionally. I repeat my question. Should science be subjective? If so, give an example. By subjective, what we mean? When I say that science has to be subjective.
That differs from
Objective.
context. Like whatever the situation, it can be applied to that particular situation, it may not be really applicable to some other situation.
Okay. Science may be taking a stand based on the situation. So it's not that every time a rule has to be followed, come what may. Generally, when we say objective rules, scientific rules are objective. When we say that they are applicable to all situations, all times. But when I am saying this, should science be objective? Should science be, science be subjective? If at all you want science to be subjective, can you give an example? Okay, this could be one very common example that we are seeing. What for it is to be used is a subjective thing. So one very thing from your own syllabus is gene correction, or using the genetic knowledge in creating some kind of individuals with certain traits, which popularly are getting to be known as the designer individuals. If that is what is science coming up with, see, it is capable of doing that. Capability is a different thing, desirability is the other one. You are capable of doing certain things. You are capable of dismantling the entire southern globe. But is it really desirable? That's where the subjective thing comes. See, for a long time, this debate could not be settled because scientists are seen not simply as objective people, these are also seen as the people whom anybody can trust. It's as simple as, see, when you go to a doctor, you trust him so very completely. When you trust him so very completely, whatever he gives, you don't question him. Whatever long list of medicines, etc., you don't question him, because you see him as the replica of the God in front of you. I extend that to the other positions also, including that of a teacher. That is also the reason why I tell you, when you are listening to a teacher and when you are taking a medicine, you don't trust them, you don't get it. Every hour of the day when you are taking the medicine, you are saying to yourself that this is a worthless one that I am taking. How much ever you gulp in, that will not do that magic. That's where I think science and trust, they have some kind of a relation with each other. Now, I'm bringing all these discussions because at one point of time the talk comes whether religion has to be objective or whether it is subjective. By nature, is it possible that any religion can be objective? And I'm giving all those questions that we will be talking about in the coming classes. What is the basic purpose of religion? When I'm giving this question, what is the basic purpose of religion? Are we hinting at the functionality? Functionality is one of the views given by the anthropologists to analyze, to present religion. Your syllabus actually talks about two popular approaches of anthropology to study religion. One is evolutionary approach, the second one is functional approach. In fact, there are many more within anthropology itself, but thankfully he stopped at functional only. But after functional school, there were several other approaches to study religion that have come. I find it morally my responsibility to give you an information on that. Because see, for a big question such as write an essay on anthropological approaches towards religion, I don't want this lot of students to stick only to historical or evolutionary approaches and functional approaches alone. If at all those can be accommodated, it's not simply that you are giving a lot of information to the examiner. He can see that beauty in the way things have progressed. So remember, in all these questions, we are still sticking to evolutionary method. Now, you also have to understand this. In the discussions of anthropology, they are not indulging in this kind of a debate whether God is necessary or not. They are not indulging in this discussion. What they are looking into is in which places you are seeing God, in whom you are seeing God, or in whom you are seeing the supernatural. In fact, I should go a step further and say that anthropologists are actually not even talking about God. They are actually talking about supernatural. And they are talking about the belief in supernatural. That's how, look at these definitions. When Ember was defining religion, it's a belief in supernatural. He never says it's a belief in God. One of the supernaturals could be God. What are the other supernaturals? Demons. Inka? I asked a question. God is one of the supernatural forces. What could be the other supernatural forces? One our friend says is demons. What are the examples for other supernatural forces? Spirits, souls. అది నేను విన్నాను, ఇక్కడ ఎవరో అన్నారు నేచురల్ ఇవి అని. Something above the nature is supernatural. So weather phenomena is a natural phenomena. Somebody might be guiding it. So meaning that some supernatural is guiding the natural phenomena. So forces of nature are not supernatural. Within the name itself you can understand. I would want to recommend this to you. I actually have that compilation, but then because most of those discussions are in Telugu, I didn't want to. There are English versions also, Ramuism. Ram Gopal Verma's set of things. Ramuism. His interviews and his talks. There was a big time series actually, Ramuism. So at one point of time, if you have finished, I'll see if at all I'm carrying one for you. In fact, I love that man for the kind of remarks that he makes. People call him crazy, but many crazy people made history. You will understand them that they are historical figures only from the craziness they have got something out. I don't think so. Maybe some other class. There was one video one interview where he was saying this. What is God for you? So suppose you want to make a movie of God. On which God you want to make a movie? Then his remark was that, see, if I have an access to make a movie with a big star, maybe if I have a contact with Mahesh Babu, I would want to make a film with him. Similarly, if I have to make a film on the God, I would choose that God which is working well. Which is working well. So working well in the sense it is typically that aerial coverage of the God. So it's like he says, if I'm looking at a lot of Western countries like Northern America, USA, etc., where a lot of Christianity is there, and they are very prosperous. Maybe there is a link between Christianity and prosperity. So it shows that Jesus Christ is doing well. May not be Balaji. So why should I not make a movie on Jesus Christ? Why on? So though he is crazy, occasionally he is worthwhile to listen to. It's an unfortunate thing that Sarkar 3 didn't do well, but still he will make 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, he will make. Look at the later one, Ember's definition. Religion is a set of attitudes, beliefs, practices related to supernatural power, whether the power be forces, gods, spirits, ghosts, demons. This is an extension, an explanation of this cute one. How nicely Taylor tries to put across his words, his definitions. Belief in the supernatural. There is no argument which supernatural it is. There may be benevolent forces, there may be malevolent forces. See, like how the human population can be divided into good and bad, God population can also be divided into good and bad, good gods, bad gods. I am not getting into those controversies now, whether God can be bad. Or you only desire to have a good God and think that God is good. I want to show certain pictures to you. Why do people do this? ये तो फिर भी ठीक है, अपने आप को you are mutilating yourself. But see the smile on the face of the mother. When she is seeing to it that some bit of blood at least has to be shed from the little fellow. What makes people do this? What makes people do this? I remember my own sister, a very hardcore Shiite Muslim. I remember that that little fellow was about 20, 30 days, not even 40 days, 20, 30 days, and then one day of Muharram, she takes the little fellow and does it, and she says he was smiling when I was doing that, my God. I felt like you smile, I'll do the needful for you. See, when somebody is exposed to this kind of a culture, where is the fear? When there is somebody who is exposed to this culture, where is the fear? Fear of anything for that matter. Fear of maybe bloodshed. The moment I say blood, some of you will faint. I show you blood, you are not there. I give you the smell of blood, you will never get up. This is also the reason why I ask my students to visit, especially Old City on the day of 10th Muharram. You do it. You will actually understand why people do what they do. And I also guide my students, when you are going there, you are not going for a party, so you don't wear all glittery things. You religiously wear a black clothing and go. If you are a female, cover your head and go. Your basic purpose is to see what and how things are happening. And that procession is so very remarkable actually. Hyderabad Muharram is a very peaceful one, very, very peaceful one. They mutilate their own selves. They don't damage the others. But see, by mutilating themselves, that act is actually giving rise to so much of fear in the rest of the people. People of the other community, when they can do this to themselves, what can they do to us? Just imagine. Try injuring yourself. एक छोटा सा पिन लो, try doing this to you. In spite of you being a doctor, you'll not be able to do this to your own selves unless you take the help of the others. थोड़ा सा छुपा दे. And if at all you get that opportunity to attend, to go there, you would see that intermittently, at least in the beginning and end, there are two major groups. There's one Abbasid group, there's the other one. It's something like they are guarding the entire procession. And intermittently also, you see the very well-built fellows. And interestingly here, this was a picture in Iran, but in India, most of the places you don't find the upper garments. And you see the very highly well-built young men getting into this kind of an act. It is a ferocious one for the people from the other communities. Now, the question now is not why people do this. The question is what this can do to the others. See, within a couple of minutes, the question has actually changed. Those are the little fellows. And this is not simply an Islamic phenomena. There are the others also. There are certain Roman Catholic churches that also indulge in this commemoration of crucifixion of Jesus. And the other part of Christianity, they say that this is the misunderstanding of the faith altogether. He never asked you to do this. Whatever blood had to flow, he had already done that on behalf of all of us. You need not have to start with number one there. Or maybe that they are trying to feel what Jesus Christ must have felt. Don't know. Those of you who belong to those churches may have an answer for us. This is also from the same community, a picture that was taken in Delhi, the same community of Roman Catholics. This seems to be when I'm showing these pictures with a lot of bloodshed. I'm neither glorifying them, nor am I trying to make you afraid of all that. It is only to say that this is not unique to these communities alone. At least in the little tradition Hinduism, you find such kind of things very frequently. Batakamma, the kind of jatras that we have. Pothraju. The local jatras, local religious congregations of Hinduism. I love this figure he was mentioning called Pothraju. The one who gets dressed up, I will be showing one couple of videos in the next class of Pothraju. Self-beating and then dancing. You remember that little fellow? Kya naam hai? Venu Madhav. I would show this to the non-Telugu fellows in my next class. These are actually the practices that are there in great and little tradition everywhere. What is it that you are trying to do? Maybe you are offering a bit of you to the gods so that the gods are pleased and give what is necessary for you. So it's a mutual exchange between the devotee and the god. I give this, what do you give? Maybe a penance for the sins. But maybe this exercise is happening every year. है ना? So it's like, last year ka quota last year ho gaya, and then you are starting with a new quota, which you will be getting away from when the next flagellation happens. Or is it that the God has to witness this every year? Whatever you have done in this year, I have forgiven you. Can the forgiveness be not till eternity? I'm not looking for any answer there. These are some of the things, some of the practices, some of the rituals that seem to be culture specific. In anthropology, it is taken for granted that most of the communities, most of the societies of the world have some kind of a worldview or the other, some kind of a faith or the other. The way we are arranging also is evolutionary. So we will put it this way. These are the popular paradigms. Those are the popular paradigms. How anthropology had witnessed the study of religion. So between those times it was mostly evolutionism, and then came functionalism and structural functionalism. This is where your syllabus actually stops. And after this there were several others. So we will be formally writing down one particular answer called symbolism in religion. Don't right now have an opinion about feminism in religion. We will talk about it. It is not a school that says that female gods are superior to the male gods, no. It is also not a movement where females are fighting for rights to be priests. There are two ways through which anthropology examines religion. One is, this is a belief system, belief in some kind of a supernatural. Second thing is, this is a document that regulates the society. So maybe that I am looking at the functional element when I am saying this. People are busy writing. So. There is some revision you will have to do back home before you come to the class tomorrow. One is Tyler's idea of religion, Tyler's idea of evolution of religion. Tyler's idea of evolution of religion. The second one, for which I think you have, I don't know whether you have written an answer earlier. How did Malinowski understand religion? Two things. Malinowski's understanding of religion, the second one is Tyler's idea of religion. But in general, what can be the function of a religion? What can be the function of a religion? Now, we are not actually into the discussion whether religion should be there or not. I am waiting for your response. ఒకటి చెప్పండి.
See, before the origin of civilization, it was basically to understand the forces of nature, to give an explanation for it. After civilization, it's mostly been for just regulating society and keeping people in their place.
So one could be explaining the things that you're not able to understand. Why does the rain occur? Why does thunder comes? Why does something else happens in the nature? When you don't understand the nature, religion might say that, okay, there is somebody like Indra, Varuna, who is sitting up there and having fun with you. Once you understand the scientific phenomena, maybe religion is something like telling you what is right and what is wrong. Some of the views there. Religion gives a comfort in the inevitable times of stress. How many times you must have felt this in the process of preparation for UPSC? So stressed out, don't know where you are going, why you are going. We will be examining each one of them in our class later. These couple of days I'll leave you early, so please don't mind. Look at that. Religion gives people a framework of values, meaning what is right and what is wrong. It provides the transcendental understanding and it resolves inner conflict. So it's like each one of us have two parts in our own selves. Many times there is a fight between those two parts in you, to do, not to do. One part says you go ahead, the other says no, no. Which part of you has to prevail, that is decided by religion. It's as simple as each one of us have an animal in us. Religion tames that animal. Otherwise, so many things might be there which you actually want to do. You're not doing because of various reasons. One of the reasons could be religion. The other day, a student of ours, he was asking, who is a decent fellow? Who is a decent fellow? Answer was also given by him, because we didn't know who a decent fellow is. A decent fellow is the one who uses a glass to have water even in the absence of anybody else. He is not drinking like that. This has become a fashion these days, using bottles. There were the times when, we were not supposed to use bottles for drinking water in the house. It is considered to be an indecent thing. So that is the definition that comes out there. A decent fellow is the one who has water, who drinks water with a glass in spite of the absence of everybody else. So we are actually talking about enculturation. Religion gives the models of enculturation. What has to be done, what has not to be done. These are some of the things, and inner conflict, etc. We'll be continuing with Tyler's evolutionary model in tomorrow's class. Have a good time. Sorry for leaving you a little early.